Hi, everybody. Al Bernstein here with another edition of our Big Time Boxing Show. And this one, a very special one to me because we're going to get to visit with a gentleman who is maybe the best storyteller ever in the sport of boxing, by far the best television producer that has ever worked in the medium, and a good friend of mine. He has had a 45-year career in sports television with CBS, ABC, NBC, and since from 1987 to 2023 was the executive producer of Showtime Sports. And it was my great privilege for some of those years, a lot, to be working with him on that show. He is the estimable David Dinkins Jr. David, how are you, my friend?
Well, you made my day, Alan. This is it's terrific seeing you. It really is, buddy. I miss you. Those
I know.
years that I did live in Vegas and we used to
Yeah.
travel together to Showtime events. Those are some fantastic memories. And
We had a lot of fun
some
doing that
travel woes
series.
mixed in, but overall, a great time.
It really was. And you're right, because we lived in the same city for a good portion
Yeah,
of that, we were able to travel to all these events and do all these great events. You
that was our version of planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yeah,
'Cause
yes, it
did
was.
them
And
all.
oftentimes we emulated the movie, didn't we?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
we did.
we had one trip from Las Vegas to Phoenix that took about 12 hours, right?
Yeah,
At
yeah,
least.
yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
how
So
that happened.
we could have gone home, gotten
Yeah,
our respective vehicles,
yeah,
and driven to Scottsdale in less time than it
yeah.
took waiting at the airport. That was
Would have been easier. You've done many sports, of course, in your career, football, baseball, basketball, everything. But this show's a little more boxing centric, obviously. What what is it about boxing that A draws you as a producer, and B the challenges of boxing that are maybe a little different than some other sports?
I think people make the mistake of looking at boxing production as very simple.
Mm-hmm.
Guys in the ring, referee, that's it. And they don't contemplate the management of the entire event, the
Mm-hmm.
entertainment part of it, the storytelling, as you alluded to before, and the fact that you don't know what's going to happen. It can be over in 30 seconds. It can go the distance and go to the cards. There's a lot of drama that can happen in the blink of an eye. And things can unfold in a very unpredictable way, as we've seen over the years. And
Mm-hmm.
as you and I used to tell each other, you think you've seen everything? No, you haven't. There's
Yeah.
always something there. And I appreciated the challenge of crafting the show, thinking about the feature elements, thinking about the on cameras, thinking about getting the fighters in and out of the ring, the interviews that would take place with family, friends, trainers that supported the fighters, and they're the most interesting athletes I think I've ever covered. Boxing,
Intri- Intriguing.
yeah,
Yeah, one of the things that I think people maybe don't know completely is that one of probably the most important aspect, and I'll be curious to get your take on this. It seems to me the most important aspect of a television production is preparation. And one of the things that all different organizations and groups get known for different things. Showtime was known, regardless of what anyone, I mean, personally, I thought we did a wonderful job. That's just my opinion. But whatever anybody thought, the one thing that was the hallmark of Showtime boxing was preparations. Uh, and do you feel that that's like one of the main, most important things about making a broadcast work?
absolutely, absolutely. There are so many people that are involved in this, from the operations side, the technicians, the production people, the on-air talent. Any one of us doesn't do their job properly, the
Hmm.
chain is broken, and it disrupts the presentation. Uh, when it's done right, it enhances it. And you know how tricky it can be there ringside.
Yeah.
The microphones, the monitor setup, all that has to work in unison with the production. And it sounds like it's oh yeah, of course, but it's when you take stuff for granted, that's when stuff
Yeah.
doesn't go the way it should.
The
And
other thing, oh,
so
good.
much
I'm sorry.
production that's being done these days, and budgets being slashed, and
Yeah.
compromises being made. We were fortunate enough to, especially in the latter years, once you came on board in particular, to put the right resources and personnel, towards those shows.
Yeah. Very good point. Because a lot of times the resources you have dictate that. So you during your time in boxing, you have one very unique perspective for you is that there were a couple larger than life personalities in boxing that for many, many years were dominant figures in the sport. And you uniquely worked with both of these men. You did many pay-per-view shows, some of which I participated with you with Bob Arum, and you worked with Don King during many years at Showtime. And these are, as I said, larger than life personalities that you were dealing with. Give us a thumbnail sketch of the differences between kind of dealing with those two guys and what it is they brought to boxing and how you had to kind of navigate through all that.
Well, I do have to give them both credit for providing me with opportunity when I was a young producer
Yeah, good
to
point.
do these large shows.
Yeah.
And I had done all kinds of events at CBS.
Mm-hmm.
And good news was I was a young producer that got these opportunities. The bad news was I was a young producer and further down the ladder with
Yeah.
not a whole lot of opportunity for verticality
Yeah.
on,
Right.
on the corporate production ladder.
Yeah.
And when these opportunities came my way, it was a godsend. It helped create my career in boxing by doing these closed circuit first. It became pay-per-view shows. That was an
Right.
entry into Showtime. And Bob and Don were very good about giving me those opportunities. And they were generous with their time and the resources for us to do those. And, people forget about closed circuit being the father of
That's
pay-per-view
that's
and now
right.
the streaming platforms. That's
Yep.
where you got the big events. And it was a challenge to put those together. And for me, Al, it just was right place and right time.
Yeah. And you both men had uniquely different
Yes,
approaches,
yes.
but both
To
were
answer that
good
part of your
promoters. Yeah.
question, people used to say that Bob could take something and make it big.
Mm-hmm.
Don could take something big and make it gigantic. And
It's a
that
good
was
phrase.
the maybe the biggest difference between the two. They
Mm-hmm.
were genius promoters. Um, they could do things that nobody had done before that, and
Yeah.
they were in step with the technology and the presentation from the closed circuit days to pay-per-view and cable. Um, Now in their later years now, and they're not as active, clearly,
Yeah.
not so much in the streaming services, but those guys were the tip of the spear when it came to the production, uh, televising, broadcasting of boxing. And the deal that Arum had with Top Rank, uh, being the provider for ESPN, that
Yeah.
was a mutually beneficial situation. That weekly series created a lot of stars. Uh, Don King had his relationships with the various networks over the years, as Bob did, and that was the proving ground. That was where stars were born. The Ray Leonard, who's sitting in that beautiful picture behind you, um, he was probably the archetype of that. And that model from Ray Leonard has tried to be replicated over the years. De La Hoya, Mayweather, whomever, but this was a time that those were the right men for it, and they took advantage of it. They made a lot of money. Um, they were very successful, and boxing was probably its golden era.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, you have worked over 600 world title fights, or as you know, producing them, and many fights of the year, and some of the uh, the events that you did were so iconic. And I'm going to go back and touch a few with you because they're just so remarkable. And one of them was one I got to share with you. Uh, and it was a unique event in so many different ways. And that was a 1989 fight between Roberto Duran and Iran Barkley, which was a top rank pay per view. So that was one that Arum did. And it was a unique event for me because I got a chance. I was doing that series at ESPN that you talked about. And every once in a while, I would get to go do pay-per-views with Arum and then I would work with the A team like you and Bob Dunphy and all the great folks that did boxing at CBS and Showtime. And that event was really an amazing event because it was in Atlantic City, where on top of everything else, is that big fight was affected by the weather, which was an amazing story. Talk about that for a second.
Oh, it was a terrible storm. We thought nobody was going to be able to get to the event. Luckily, they managed to get there and were treated to a sensational piece of history. Duran resuscitated his career yet again against a bigger, stronger opponent in Iran Barkley, and put on, as only Duran could do, a effort for the ages. Nobody really thought. I mean, did you think going to that
No.
be able to stand in there with Barkley, who had beaten Hearns
Yeah.
and was just a very, very tough out, a very tough fighter.
And Iran Barkley fought a fantastic fight that night. I personally actually would have given the decision to Barkley, but it was a very close fight, and I don't begrudge Duran winning it, and he did put Barkley down in the later rounds. It was an amazing performance because of Barkley fighting so well. And Duran, as you made a comment that I used in my book, you said the great ones are capable of coming up with great moments, great nights when you think they can. And that's what he did. And as we kept seeing those people filing in, when we thought no one was going to get there from
Yeah, it's like, come
the
on in, you're missing something great. Get off the
and
Jersey Turnpike and come over here.
I mean, that was the worst snowstorm Atlantic City had in decades, I guess. Yeah, it was crazy. And that was a fight. I got to work with Gil Clancy on that. I did play-by-play on that, and with Gil Clancy did it. And that gives me license to kind of put you in this direction. Among the commentators that you worked with, one of the great, I always say, one of the great teams of all time in any sport was Tim Ryan and Gil Clancy, who together did all those great fights with you at CBS. And so for me, it was a joy working with Gil. Gil was a savant. And I thought that night, he's always great, but that night I was literally sitting there in awe of what he was doing on that broadcast. But
he had an incredible ability to see what was going on in the ring, digest it, communicate it to the viewer. You look at great ones like Madden, Tim McCarver. When they were in their primes. Gil was like that.
yeah,
Modesty keeps you from including yourself in that group. Well, let's be real here, Al. Yeah, I mean you learned and mastered from guys like Dunphy, Don Dunphy, Bob's dad,
yeah.
and Gil Clancy and Tim.
They were mentors to me, both of them.
And
Personal
you
mentors.
were a multi-skilled broadcaster, blow by blow analysis, interviewer, and we won't see your like again, Al.
Well, it was fun. I like the idea of doing all the different roles, so that was fun.
And well, not just doing them.
Well, I appreciate that. And the during that CBS period when you worked with Gil and Tim, The thing about them too, and this brings us to the other aspect of broadcast of doing these fights. One of the fun things, I had Barry Tompkins on recently, and we were talking about the camaraderie and the that happens in producing TV. And Gil and Tim are the perfect example, right? I mean, you guys, the dinners before fights and things that we all had that you had with them. I mean, that's a big part, isn't it, in TV production that
Yeah.
people don't realize that when you bond together as a unit doing television, it's a very special thing.
It is, and I think people appreciated the rapport that they had. It was genuine. It wasn't manufactured.
Mm-hmm.
And they would sometimes disagree
Yeah,
about things. And when we were out to dinner, and Tim would ask for that wine list, and Gil would start to roll his eyes and say, "Oh, here we go again." They and when they get out there on the tennis court, they used to play with Bob Arum a lot
yeah,
and Ray Leonard. Um, they'd get out there and hit the ball around, and they were uh, just a genuine, deep affection for each other
yeah,
and respect.
yeah,
So even when
yeah.
they disagreed, and they didn't always see things eye to eye about
No, well,
what was going on in the ring, or you know when the wine list came.
the wine list category as well.
They,
You know,
but
yeah.
their chemistry was just
Oh, it was amazing.
terrific,
I
terrific. And isn't that a big part of it, Al? When
yeah, it
you
is. Yeah,
have worked with so many people over the years,
yeah.
but when you have that chemistry and you're not trying to manufacture it,
Yes, organically, it comes
it's
organically. Yeah.
a distraction. It's awkward. It's not a good listen, and you're not
No.
getting much information, and it's not really entertaining. It's like being at the wrong party, wearing the wrong outfit or something. It's just
There was one time on one of the shows, it was one of the pay-per-view ones, and Tim and Gil were doing it. I was also on the show. I was doing interviews, and I think I worked with Gil doing one of the undercard fights, and I kind of sat in as the third guy, but it wasn't like an official thing, but I was in there for several of the fights, and I told Tim Ryan, he and Gil, they always laughed. They laughed when I told them this. I said, when I sat there at that time, I felt like somebody that was tapping Fred Astaire on the shoulder to cut in and dance with Ginger Rogers. It didn't feel like the right, just speaking didn't feel like the right thing to do because I was getting in the middle of this wonderful dance that, goes on, but they laughed about it. But,
the
but that's kind of the way I
three-person
felt.
uh, announce booth is always been a tricky thing over you. If they're not,
Mhm.
specifically designed roles
Yeah,
and mutual respect among the participants, and
sure.
and then the onus on the producer to delineate
Yeah.
properly so people
And
know
let
what
me add, there wasn't anything that they did or you did or anything. It was just in
yeah,
my brain. I was like, "Oh my God, I don't want to get in the way of any of this."
yeah,
But
yeah.
they were amazing, and you worked with so many great ones. Now let's mention a couple other fights because I think you've had so many grand experiences of doing very diverse kind of events that go across decades of boxing. I mean, we talked about the Duran Barkley fight. During that same era, you did the biggest fight that um, could be done, and that was Marvin Hagler and Sugar Ray Leonard. Um, and that was literally, the most monster fight Las Vegas had seen maybe ever.
Yeah.
And a lot of pressure, right, when you're producing those kind of events to live up to the amazing hype that the event's getting.
I was just looking so forward to doing it, Al.
Hmm.
I didn't feel that sensation. There was no
You just felt excited,
anxiety.
right?
It was like,
Yeah.
this is great. I mean, I used to tell the staff when we'd have our meetings before that kind of fight, the Tyson Holyfield fights, the big Mayweather fights. Uh, if you're not excited about being here, you're in the wrong business.
Hmm.
This is where you want to be. People want to be,
Yeah,
in these chairs doing these
right.
events.
That's true. It's very true. Yeah, no, that what was an amazing thing. And then years and years after, now this was another aspect of it that is fascinating. So you and I both participated in one of the two times that Showtime and HBO collaborated to do a fight, and that was Mayweather Pacquiao, which was also like Leonard, you know, Hagler, an event that stopped the world, right? It sold, I guess, more pay-per-views than anything leading up to it. And
Crazy number at a crazy price. Remember, that was $100.
yes,
Right? It was, oh wow, who's going to pay that?
right.
Well, 4 million people.
Yeah, amazing, right?
Yeah,
And these two organizations, right, that were rivals, collaborating on this event. It was, kind of like the Paris peace talks, and it all got figured out, and we had a great broadcast, and everything was great. But that was a challenge, wasn't it, to try and
yeah,
to merge all that together
yeah.
and make it work. But I mean, I have to say, you were seamless in creating an environment that made it, I think, easy for the participants to do.
Well, I think I had the good fortune of having relationships with a lot of the HBO people
Yes,
over the years.
which a lot
Okay,
of us did. I knew a
and
lot of the
Barkley and I
people as well.
went back to the ABC days,
Sure.
so we
Yeah.
knew each other. So there was a good personal and professional foundation there. If that had not been the case, it might have been
Yeah.
a little more awkward than it was. But
Yeah.
everybody was there to get it done and get it done right. That's a thing too.
Yeah. That's a good
I
point.
got that from the
Yeah.
onset. Everybody's happy that this event was finally taking place, and yeah, let's
Right.
get this done right.
Yeah. And I think one of the interesting things that people don't always, most of the time in sports TV, people have that mindset. On rare occasions, not, but for the most part, they did. Before we get off these fights, uh, of course, you also produced two of the events that were earth-shattering, both involving Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield. The first was when Evander Holyfield upset Mike Tyson in their first fight. Again, one that we were talking about unexpected results. Not everybody expected that to happen, that's for sure. And you were ready when there are fights like that. Uh, and one of the dangers of sports broadcasting is sometimes people having a narrative going into fights and not being able to adapt. The great thing, and I'm going to say this to the public about your productions, is there is no narrative. There are storylines that are involved in the fight. There is no narrative to follow. There is no, here's the way we want to announce this fight, even if it doesn't follow that narrative. You are a storyteller, and we are storytellers. And the Evander Holyfield Tyson fight is a perfect example. That thing took the first one, forget the second, which we'll get to in a second. The first one really took a different spin, didn't it?
Yeah, but as you know, that's one of the great things about sports:
Yeah.
the upset, the unpredictability of it, and that adds to the drama. That's how legends are made, and we're lucky
Mhm.
to be witness to that when it does happen. Whether you're a broadcaster or a fan,
Yeah,
that's the
exactly.
great part of it. And people had reports of Holyfield's career being over were greatly exaggerated.
And that was the case about 4 times, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like Duran,
yeah,
reincarnated. And then the second Holyfield Tyson fight, the infamous ear biting incident,
yeah.
which again challenges your ability as a producer and the broadcast ability to adapt to that. What was going through your mind when all that was going on? Again, it speaks to the anything can happen and you never know what's going to happen. Uh,
Well, like you say, you keep your eyes and ears open. No pun intended, but
yeah, right.
not at all. But
Yeah,
so when it happened, you're on it. You're on it. You're looking at all the different angles, and you see what it had transpired. And Mark Ratner, probably the unsung hero. Granted, Mills Lane, the referee, took charge and got things,
right.
properly adjudicated. But Ratner, as the executive director of the Nevada State Athletic Commission and his supervisor, helped keep the thing on track.
Yeah, right. Good point.
Or rather, back on track after it had
Yeah,
derailed.
right.
And
Which also makes it a little easier for you to do your job.
You could see, where the bite had taken place. You could see, where the confusion. I think we knew better than Lane knew at that point, and
Yes.
knew better than anybody except Holyfield.
Yeah, he knew. Yeah, amazing. That was a crazy event. Ironically, I was not there for that. I was in another part of the world doing something, but that was staggering. Okay,
I
now
remember Dunphy and I after that thinking, "Oh man, this is it. No, this is bad. This is bad medicine, man. This is bad. This is going to turn people off." And sure enough, the legend just grew.
No, it's funny. That's a very interesting thing you're saying.
It was so controversial. It was Tyson was such a huge star. Holyfield was a big star too, but Mike was, arguably even bigger. I mean, but no, this just added to boxing lore and to the Tyson legend.
Which that's interesting. You're making that comment at the moment. It just probably felt depressing because it was such a ridiculous, and then there was the whole commotion in the casino and all the rest of it. At the time, it just felt kind of depressing. But you're right. It created folklore. So I've been doing a series on this show called a Hall of Fame Spotlight, and I've been interviewing people that are in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. You have been on the ballot for the International Boxing Hall of Fame for several years and have not yet been put into the International Boxing Hall of Fame, which I believe is a miscarriage of justice. And I'm going to be honest, I've lobbied hard to hopefully make that happen. And right now, I'm actually going to do something weird because I'm going to quote myself, which is weird, right? From something that was sent out on a comment I was asked about you several years ago. And I said this: for over 40 years, David Dinkins Jr. has presented boxing to the American and worldwide television audiences, and no one has ever done it better. He's crafted live broadcasts that have captured the most important and exciting moments the sport has had in those decades. He's produced broadcasts on CBS and Showtime and on pay-per-view that chronicle decades of boxing history and did so in an authentic and exciting manner. I've shared many of those broadcasts with him, and I can tell you that his reverence for the sport and for the boxers has always guided what he's done. That, as much as anything, makes him the perfect candidate for induction into the Boxing Hall of Fame. As a producer and executive producer, he has literally written the book on how boxing should be presented on television, and a place in Boxing Hall of Fame is warranted and appropriate. And I repeat that because it's just as pertinent as several years ago when I said it the first time. So you deserve a spot in the International Boxing Hall of Fame, and I am very hopeful that this year you will get across that threshold.
Well, Al, thanks very much. I mean, that's very touching. It's especially touching coming from you, somebody that is a dear friend, somebody that I have so much personal and professional respect for. We were very fortunate that we were able to liberate you at some point from ESPN.
to get to Showtime. Yeah. That was good.
Like that guy, trying to get that prom date. You weren't available. you weren't available. Eventually you came in, and you look back at the history of Showtime boxing, the Bernstein era, and you coming on board elevated us. It elevated us significantly. Your reputation, the imprimatur that you brought to the telecast, and then once you were on camera and behind the mic, You took us to a next level. We leveled up with you, Al.
Well, I appreciate that. We had a wonderful run there, and for me, I say it all the time. It was the most significant thing that happened to me in all the years that I broadcast. There was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun at ESPN, doing a lot of things. I mean, 8 years with Barry Tompkins was just magical, and that series, and we had all kinds of fun. But for me, the rising up to a level of another level of production and another level of boxing was the thing that I think was most important to me, and that collaboration, of course, was great. Um, you, when you look back on the time of doing, all as I said, you've produced all kinds of sports, on the highest level. But when you look back at the boxing, what's your general takeaway from the art of doing that sport and kind of what it ultimately gave you as a producer?
Well, I think the blank canvas that
Well put.
was there for me to apply my craft.
Yeah.
It's having done the other sports. There's sort of a regimentation there by the major sports leagues. When's the first pitch? Tip off, kick off. Here, you can control that. You can
Mm-hmm.
control that, and what you can't control is when it's going to stop, when the content stop, and how you transition from one bout to the next, and make the content and build the story throughout the night of the telecast. That was very gratifying, and the relationships that I built with the team that I was leading for all those years, very special to me. Yeah, very special. And boxing, the relationships I made there with the promoters, trainers, and most of all the fighters were very special
Yeah.
to me. And some that are no longer with us, like Emmanuel Stewart,
Yeah.
a dear, dear friend. And some guys now like Derek James. He's a great guy. And
Mm-hmm.
there are too many to name, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
A
that.
lot of people.
Yeah, those relationships are very, very special, and that's what made going to work exciting, and got your juices going. And then if it pays off with an exciting contest, a dramatic contest between the ropes, all the better. And then
Yeah, yeah,
great.
that makes it perfect.
Yeah.
Well, you made it perfect for many, many years in boxing, and we all look forward to whatever endeavors you have in the future. And I look forward to our continued friendship, and it's special to me. And I'm glad we got a chance to have a visit where we could kick a lot of this around and talk about it. And when you get inducted into the Hall of Fame, we'll redo it all over again. See, look, my confidence is building.
Well,
But
I'll
anyway,
certainly have you to thank, Al.
well, I don't know about that, but hopefully, I'm reaching people here, so we hope we open this platform, they'll at least think about it. But anyway, fantastic to visit with you, David, and we'll do it again down the road, and maybe pick out some specific topics that we can delve into, because we reminisced a lot on this one, but I don't want to lose sight of the fact that you are constantly on top of what goes on in the world
You know
of
me, Al. I
boxing
got
and
an opinion
sports.
about everything, so don't.
You are not shy about that. You will have and it will be an
Happy to share.
educated one.
Happy to share.
All right.
All right.
Thank you very much,
Well, love
David.
to Connie and Wes. Please
All
give
right.
them my
Will
deepest
do.
protection.
All right, thank you. That was David Dinkins Jr., the man who I had the pleasure to work with for so many years, former executive producer of Showtime Sports, and one of the very most important people in the genesis of sports television, especially in terms of boxing and how it progressed over the years. So I hope you enjoyed that. And we hope you will join us again the next time for our Big Time Boxing Show. Take care, everybody.